When you embarked on a vacation to an uncharted land or place, getting a rental place from a service like Airbnb felt as simple as registering for an electronic SIM card. It felt that apart from reading the reviews provided by past patrons on the individual platform, I doubt many people will hold any inhibitions before renting the place for your short stay. Have you ever considered if the house or apartment unit is haunted, or worse still, harboring some sinister lodgers or host who was up to no good? In 2025's Bone Lake from director Mercedes Bryce Morgan, it started off as an innocuous romantic vacation for our young couple Sage and Diego in a lakeside country house. Diego had quitted his job to focus on being an aspiring novelist, and it felt like a decision not entirely bought by his girlfriend Sage. The boyfriend had booked a cottage, hoping to rejuvenate their ailing relationship, especially in the physical aspect, which felt like sorely lacking for a couple in their prime sexual years. While the pair was in the midst of fornication, they were surprised to see another couple, Will and Sin, barging into the house, obviously possessing the passcode for the lock instead of illegal breaking and entering. It was blatant that the proprietor of the cottage had double booked. While it was not ideal, the two young couples came into agreement to share the big house before exonerating the renting platform for a refund. It sounded like a brilliant plan, and living with the exuberant, friendly and aesthetically pleasing couple made the decision seemingly easy for Diego and Sage. While the ladies struck an instant rapport and companionship, Diego started to feel weirded out and naturally intimidated with Will. Besides enjoying the facilities of the cottage and having the scenic lake nearby as a bonus, although from the onset, the audience were being told the ominous backstory of the Bone Lake, which the movie derived the title from. The co-inhabiting couples would explore the innards of the mansion, which included a sex dungeon and an occult room. All this felt like an obvious diversion from the probable red flags for the plot, wondering if there was something lurking in the dark corners that could put our four protagonists in mortal danger. But slowly, things started unraveling, and these rooms played a part to freak out our victims. Diego was targeted, and a despicable act committed by Will, which naturally would drive anyone to blow a fuse, was the initiation of things getting from bad to worse for Sage and Diego. Things escalated to the boiling point where physicality ensued, and our main characters were positioned to be the latest sacrificial lambs for the Bone Lake. The screenplay for the movie was written by Joshua Friedlander, which had its roots in those 1990s erotic thrillers and movies like Natural Born Killers or any Tarantino affairs where the actions of the villains were hanging on the balance. The lack of humanity, and to some extent sanity, led to some incredulous repercussions that seasoned horror fans could find a bit light on their menu. I got a strong cruel intentions feel about the motives and actions of our antagonists, although they went down an even darker route. The revelation of their heinous act was a bit weak, but it worked well when dealing with the enormous fractures within the relationship between Sage and Diego. It felt like the underlying mistrust between them was obvious even before the conniving villains needed to spend money and time to dox on them. The lightweight plot certainly banked on the performances of the four main characters, and overall they were competent. Maddie Hassan played Sage and was very recognizable with her blonde cropped hairdo, and Sage was positioned to be an emotional compass even though she was flawed from her past. Yet Diego was unreliable as the character for audience to leech upon. Playing opposite her was Andra Nachita as the Jezebel Sin, as the name implied. She was a symbol of sin, manipulating all the characters, including Will. Nachita was alluring and seductive in a convincing manner, and when she flipped her demeanor, it did not come off distracting. As for their male counterparts, Brazilian actor Marco Pigossi played Diego, who was the ultimate wretched victim and at the brunt of the actions of Will. You can see him going through fits and at the precipice of blowing his tops. In the role of Will was Alex Rowe, and he was the weakest among the cast, but he did not fall far from the pretty boy persona Ryan Philippe had played in Cruel Intentions and worked on his own form of seduction. As mentioned, the barrage of violence on screen and the amount of gore was mellow compared to what horror fans had been put through on a regular basis, but it does make use of the environment and a very fitting end for our villains, especially the final part with the motorboat, naturally on the Bone Lake itself. Bone Lake is Mercedes Bryce Morgan's follow-up to 2022's Spoonful of Sugar for Shudder, which felt like another 1990s thriller horror, not unlike The Hand That Rocks the Cradle. That movie certainly received some good reviews from Shudder viewers, and Boon Lake further bolstered Morgan's reputation as horror movie storyteller. Boon Lake felt like a script that wanted so badly to push the envelope, but in a strange way, I respected the fact that Morgan and the team did not indulge in their twisted pleasures and leave things to the imagination of the audience. Boon Lake is a decent 7 out of 10 for me. Up next, we go into another Airbnb horror, which is a modern twist in lodging in a place with a looming threat, like in Bed Motel or an overlooked hotel. We have Zach Cregger's 2022 film, Barbarian, a movie that made critics and audience sit up and pay attention to the filmmaker before his recent masterpiece in Weapons. Tess arrived on a rainy cold night in a suburban town in Detroit. Wanted so badly to have a shower and cozy up in the warm bed of the house she booked on Airbnb. Before she knew it, the key to the house had been taken and he had been occupied by a man named Keith, and apparently it was another case of double booking. Red flags were raging at that instant, and our damsel in distress Tess was smartened to that and was very receptive to the friendliness offered by Keith to shelter her in a time of desperate needs. Alas, things did not realize in the morbid manner Tess and the audience were anticipating. At the moment when you let your guard down, the desolation of the neighborhood this house was located in and the dangers at every corner sent shivers down my spine in just a simple, transient pen shot. After warnings from her prospective employer, Tess was wasting no time to nope out of the Brightmoor neighborhood. This was when a cascade of unfortunate, life-threatening events start to unravel, and as audience, we wondered how Tess was going to get out of this predicament. In a classic Cregger's non-linear storytelling, he put the audience on the cliffhanger and switched to a Hollywood actor AJ, enjoying his life cruising down Malibu Beach in his convertible, only to get unfortunate news of his highly anticipated TV show, which would make or break his acting career, had been canned. Worse still, AJ was likely to be the latest of the Me Too movement in the entertainment scene, and he had pleaded innocence from the onset, and I was bought into his claim. As AJ's career is sinking faster than the Titanic, he needed some liquidations of his assets in order to pay his cabal of attorneys to fight against his allegations. He happened to own the house in Brightmoor, where Tess and Keith would book. It was blatant that he treated the house with due negligence, yet in desperate times, he needed to sell it off when it was apparent that it had very little value in the market, despite the house being the most normal-looking one in that horrendous street. AJ and Tess would cross paths, and both fell victim of the scary characters living in the extensive underground tunnels below this house that AJ had acquired on a whim without acknowledging the background of the house. In the dark labyrinth, the duo desperately tried to escape from their inevitable fates before uncovering the salacious nature of the previous owner of the land and the atrocities he had reared. In the climactic showdown, true colours were revealed and the crazy kerfuffle ensued. Before you know it, you had watched a captivating escape feature with strong performances and a director who had announced to tell a story without too much indulgence in style and panache, and as per Weapons, Cregger offered very little expositions to his audience. The holy crap moment I had with Barbarian could measure up to the first time I watched a movie like Bone Tomahawk from director S. Cregger. The name of that director felt strangely similar to Zach Cregger. It felt like once again Cregger had paid homages to horror movies that shaped him in this original story he had created, although I was not smart enough to pick up these references, with the impending dread in the basement being the most obvious. I also enjoyed the sudden switch of scenery when Georgina Campbell's Tess was staring at death in the ominous tunnel to the bright California sunshine and a beaming smile from someone like Justin Long. The final scene on the top of the water tunnel with AJ's action felt awfully absurd, and the absurdity persisted with the final outcome, but it made the scene so memorable. Cregger set out to make commentary of the total trust of engaging Airbnb for lodging, with plenty of red flags and dangers of suspicious proprietors. He also created a commentary of the arid living conditions in many parts of Detroit, as an aftermath of the downfall of the automobile industry. The creepy backstory of the so-called Barbarian felt more akin to a classic story of inbreeding in the southern states. The real treat of the movie lies in the casting of our main leads. English actress Campbell was very recognizable and propped up very well in her performance to deal with the cavalcade of crazy situations from the onset. Campbell would find joy in many more horror movies following Barbarian, including Bird Box Barcelona, Lovely Dark and Deep, and of course Ishana Night Shyamalan's The Watchers, where I would recognize her from. Justin Long is an actor I would associate with comedies, especially his association with notable figures in the comedy scene like Judd Apatow, Jonah Hill, and Seth Rogen. But his involvement in horror movies since Jeepers Creepers in 2001 could not be understated. I will do a comprehensive look into Long's history in horror films in the near future, with another horror movie he was cast in being released lately. Last but certainly not least, Bill Skarsgård as Keith. Skarsgård also served as a producer in this movie, as if Tess was not subdued by the red flags the moment she realized that she found the key of the house she had rented had been retrieved and the stranger was already staying in it. Seeing Bill Skarsgård, who took on some of the most notable cinematic horror figures, would send the fear factor to an overdrive. It was a big swerve, and seriously, I have never seen Skarsgård playing a character of such kind nature. Barbarian is one of those horror features that will grab your attention and matriculate you into the world they built, putting you at ease before scarring you when you least expected it. It is no doubt a brilliant 1-2 punch from Cregger, with weapons of course, making him one of the most exciting horror filmmakers to watch out for. I am awarding Barbarian an 8.5 out of 10. Hope I have introduced a double feature for you to watch the next time you stay in your own Airbnb rental and starting to hear suspicious sounds in the dark spaces. If you manage to survive from the ordeal, please help me to click a like to let us know everything is a-okay. If you happen to make friends with your assailant, please ask him or her to subscribe to KK's Horror Heretic. Think they will enjoy it. Do you enjoy a horror mockumentary? Strange Harvest is the latest one I've watched and I really enjoy it. A word of advice from yours truly: just avoid Airbnb rental with spaces like basement or an attic. You know what will happen.